Hi Founders fans, Jason here, and today we're going to talk about Governor Jonathan Trumbull of Connecticut. Now before we get started, I have to apologize. I didn't get a video up yesterday. It's been kind of hectic around here. We are preparing for my wife to return to work on Monday from maternity leave. Things have been a little crazy. So with that out of the way, let's talk about Jonathan Trumbull. Now for those of you who are unfamiliar, Jonathan Trumbull was a young man. He was an older man, I should say, born just a few years after Benjamin Franklin. He was a merchant, although he had a degree from Harvard and he was licensed to preach. He worked in his father's merchant firm and very early on started working in the colonial assembly, was elected to that body, and he spent several years working his way up the chain, was Speaker of the House, eventually Lieutenant Governor, and in 1769 became Royal Governor of Connecticut. Now, when hostilities broke out at Lexington and Concord, first, actually, when General Gage arrived in Boston to shut down the city, Jonathan Trumbull reached out to him and said, well, let's work together. We're neighboring colonies. How can we help each other? And then after Lexington and Concord, he wrote back to him and was basically like, what exactly is this? This is unacceptable behavior, referring to them as barbarians, more or less. And Jonathan Trumbull made a very interesting choice. He was the only royal governor of a colony who sided with the Patriots, and after independence, he's the only man who was a royal governor before independence and also a governor of an independent state after the Declaration of Independence was signed. There was one other man, and his name was of Rhode Island. The gentleman from Rhode Island, and his name eludes me, I'm sorry, Nicholas Cook. Nicholas Cook technically became governor before independence, but he was a revolutionary. He was a patriot who was elected in the days before independence, but Trumbull had been in the position for 7 years before independence, and then would stay there for 9 more until his death, I believe, in 1785. And it's very interesting how first Trumbull said, "Hey, okay, Gage, let's talk," and then was like, I tried to be friends with you, and you've really screwed things up here." And Gage actually became, Trumbull actually became very close with George Washington, who once referred to him as Brother Jonathan, and once called him the first of the Patriots, because he worked so hard as governor. He was commander-in-chief of Connecticut, at least their militia, and he worked very hard supplying the army, especially in the north, and recruiting troops for Washington and helping him plan tactics and things like that. Maybe plan tactics is the wrong way to say it, but strategize, give him information on the north, because Washington was from the south. He didn't spend a lot of time in New England before the war. And then what's also interesting about Trumbull is his sons. He had several children, but 3 of his sons. One was John Trumbull, who was one of the many people who was considered a painter of the Revolution. John Trumbull, he served briefly as an aide-de-camp to George Washington, 2 or 3 weeks. And then Jonathan Trumbull Sr.'s other son, Jonathan Trumbull, he had a son, John Trumbull, and a son, Jonathan Trumbull. John Trumbull was the painter. Jonathan Trumbull was an aide-de-camp for a good portion of the war, and would later go on to be governor of Connecticut himself. And his oldest son, Joseph Trumbull, was the first commissary general of the Continental Army, and he actually also would serve on the Board of War. So this family, again, when the Revolution broke out, Jonathan Trumbull Sr., our subject today, was born in 1710. So by the time the Revolution broke out, he was in his mid-60s, and his sons were grown. So that whole family contributed significantly to the Revolution, and not just the war itself, but as I said, his one son made many of the paintings of founders that we know today. He's the reason we know what several of them look like. So, nice and quick video today talking about John Trumbull. If you enjoyed this, please hit like and make sure you're subscribed to get more videos whenever I can release them, which usually is weekdays. Again, I apologize for missing yesterday. I am horribly embarrassed. My face is soaking red. But that's it for today, and I will look forward to talking to you tomorrow.